not. My goodness. I am annoyed. Oh, Merry Christmas, by the way, everybody. A Merry Christmas to one and all. It's December 25th. Now, I'm annoyed because we're talking about Sengoku's Buddha Zoan today, and I was in Japan earlier this year. I was in Kamakura. I saw the giant Buddha, and I could have sworn I went to the gift shop and bought a golden Buddha statue for the purposes of this video, and now I can't find it anywhere. I found a Shisa dog, I found the winged dragon of Ra, and I found Lolth, the queen of all spiders and lord of the demon web. But I did not find any golden Buddha. I am very annoyed right now. The realism of this video is completely shattered. Oh, man. But anyway, yeah. Oh, but before I forget, yes, go and check out the giant Buddha at Kamakura. It's really cool, right? It's super iconic. It's been around since like the 13th century this thing was built. And there's a few giant Buddha statues in Japan. This isn't like the only one. But something they never focus on whenever you see a picture of this Buddha, like it was even in Dr. Stone, in the 4th episode of Dr. Stone. That's how you know it's really popular, when it shows up in a Dr. Stone anime. But anyway, no. Immediately to the right of the giant Buddha statue, there is the Buddha's giant sandals, which I also got a picture next to. Yeah, so that's so cool, because like, oh, wow, look at this amazing statue that's been here for centuries. You just turn and just see these giant sandals. I'm like, well, at least they're laying out the sandals for him in case the Buddha ever wants to get around and, you know, walk around the place. He's got his sandals right there. That's fantastic. Anyway, today we're talking about Sengoku, the former fleet admiral of the Marines, Devil Fruit, the human no Mi, mythical model, Daibutsu. He turns into a big golden Buddha statue, which makes him the second coolest old man that turns into a giant golden statue in anime. Well, I think we all know who the number one is. I guess Isaac Netero from Hunter x Hunter doesn't turn into the giant, Guanyin Bodhisattva, but it is a huge golden statue. And I'm sorry, Sengoku, Isaac Netero's Nen ability is just cooler than you. But you're a close second. All right. So Sengoku always had the epithet of the Buddha. I'm assuming he got the epithet after he ate the devil fruit, although having it beforehand might have been a little odd. It's one of those things in One Piece. It's like Toki ate the Toki no Mi and became a time-traveling woman. She was named that before she ate the devil fruit, or maybe they named her because they planned on her eating the devil fruit. I mean, I don't know. That whole thing is loopy and weird. I mean, it is literally involving time travel, right? But anyway, yeah. So Sengoku is a human that consumed the human fruit. All right. Now, he's not the only person that has done that. Luffy has done that as well. Oda addressed this in an SBS back in the Alabasta arc, SBS 20, and I will only bring this up here because it is the subject of a lot of like mistranslations. A lot of people used to think, and me included, that Oda said that if a human ever consumed the human fruit, they would achieve enlightenment. They would be like, whoa, I am now one with the universe and all life that is within it. I have become one. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like that. That's not what Oda said. In fact, I'm just going to read you the SBS right here. And the tone of this, by the way, is very much like a joke in the way that Oda answers certain SBS questions. There's a saying we have in Japan: to become a human, or rather to come of age, it means to act like an adult or to stop acting crazy, to behave the way a human being is supposed to behave. Maybe that's part of it, or not. Oh well, maybe. Yes, I'm not sure. You know what I mean. And then it literally puts in parentheses, runs away. So it's kind of like Oda saying, oh yeah, when a human eats the human fruit, they mature, they understand responsibility, they open up a 401k. I don't know, I gotta go, guys, bye. Like that's kind of the idea, right? Like, he's kind of making a joke. He never certainly said they achieve enlightenment, although when Sengoku shows up as a giant golden Buddha, I mean, if nothing else, I think that's the reason why people say he did that. He said that because later on we get Sengoku, and the Buddha is known to be enlightened. However, despite the fact that the Viz translation, like the official English translation of his devil fruit, is human fruit model Buddha, and I also included it on the thumbnail here just for the sake of, it was easier to put on there. The Dai Butsu thing didn't really fit. He doesn't turn into a Buddha. He doesn't actually turn into, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha of old. He actually is a statue, like literally Dai Butsu, Great Buddha, is the name, kind of like a colloquial term in Japan for the many large Buddha statues that are all over the country, all right? Anytime you have a large Buddha statue, it is a Daibutsu, all right? And the fact that, Sengoku turns gold when he goes into that form and gets really big, and he's kind of shining and everything like that. In the anime, it's way more dramatic when he transforms into the Buddha. There's, like, not just the glowing light off of him. It's like a sound, like a gong, like reverberating off of his body when he goes into that form, and it's really like, gives you images of like the divine and the holy, and be like, oh my god, the enlightened one is here, and all the Marines kind of stop and kind of glance at him because most of them have never seen Sengoku in this form before. It was actually really funny to me because, like, Luffy goes through hell and back literally to get to Marineford to save Ace, and Boa gives him the key to Ace's cuffs. He manages to finally get all the way up to the scaffolding. He takes out the key. He's like, don't worry, Ace, I'm gonna save you. And Sengoku is just there. He's standing right there. Like, Sengoku is, like, standing there with his, like, hands in his pockets right next to Ace. He lets Luffy walk up, get to the platform, walk over to Ace, pull out the key, start messing with it. Ace and Luffy are kind of talking. Like, Ace is like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Why did you come here, Luffy? It's like, I had to save you. It's like, oh, you've always been a knucklehead, but I love you. It's like that kind of stuff. Sengoku's just there. He's just there, like, I'm the freaking fleet admiral of the Marines. Did you just ignore, like, you're forgetting about me? What the hell? So I think if nothing else, Sengoku was, like, kind of pissed there. He was just like, all right, okay. You think you could just ignore me? All right, check this shit out. And he's like, whoa, big Buddha, and he, begins to transform, and his hat falls off, revealing his afro, which also becomes gold, and his coat becomes gold, and his body becomes gold, and his mustache becomes gold, and he gets giant golden pecs, and he's like, yeah, and he gets really, really, really big, and really, really, really heavy. In the anime, you actually see, like, the rivets of the scaffolding they're standing on pop out of place because of how heavy Sengoku is becoming. He is essentially like a giant solid gold statue. Okay, so he probably weighs like several tons in this form. Incidentally, we don't actually know if this is his hybrid form or his full transformation. It's sort of a situation like Luffy, because Luffy has the powers of the Hito no Mi model Sun God, Nika. But, we have like the full Sun God form, which is Gear 5th. There's really not a hybrid. I guess you could say Gear 4th is sort of a hybrid, or maybe he's always in the hybrid. Maybe he just loses his normal human form, because his normal human form couldn't stretch. So he has the hybrid, which allows him to stretch, and then he has the full form when he goes into his awakening. Or maybe that is the awakening, so that's special. So because he's already a human that ate the human fruit, his body just gets stretchy, and that's kind of it. He doesn't really have the same 3 different forms that most Zoans have. Sengoku might fall into the same category. In fact, Sengoku most likely awakened. In the case with him, I think it makes the most sense. The dude becomes the Daibutsu. He becomes a very important symbol of the enlightened one, of the Buddha that has achieved nirvana. If anybody was going to have an awakened mythical zone, it would be this guy right here, okay? Although, well, we'll get into it. We'll talk about some stuff with that, but let's just talk about practically what he does, okay? So, Sengoku turns into a giant golden statue. He's like, how dare you, Straw Hat, I'm gonna execute both of you right here. And he pulls back the giant fist. Here comes the giant Christmas Buddha fist. And he brings it down. And this is actually a really cool scene. Luffy uses Gear 3rd giant balloon. And Mr. 3 Galdino's also there too. So he throws up a candle wall around Ace, and then Luffy makes himself into a giant balloon, and Sengoku hits him, and it like knocks off the entire scaffolding, like falls apart, and Luffy and Ace and Galdino all tumble off, and then that's when Galdino makes the key and releases Ace from his cuffs, and they get out of there. And there was that really cool scene where they land on the ground, and Ace and Luffy team up very briefly. That was an awesome scene. the last cool moment Ace had, you know, where you think actually, oh my god, they saved him. We're all going to be okay. And in fact, they weren't all okay. But yeah, Sengoku remains in his Buddha form for the remainder of the war. We eventually have Blackbeard showing up, Whitebeard being killed, Ace being killed, and then we have, you know, Sengoku there with Garp, and they sort of fight against the Blackbeard pirates very briefly. And this is where we see the only real technique that Sengoku's ever utilized. I don't think it's ever named in the manga, but in the video games he's in, they do give this technique a name. He has the impact wave, or Shogekiya. It's just a thrust. It's just a boom, Buddha thrust. Boom! And then that creates massive golden shockwave. Once again, in the anime, you hear like the sound of a gong or like a bell being rung as he's like, boom! Dong! And then like reverberates out, and there's big golden bursts of light and everything like that. And they seem to hurt pretty especially, except like, I don't know, it knocked back Blackbeard and his crew, but it didn't like take him out or kill him or knock him unconscious or anything like that. It sort of just knocked them all away. So, yeah, there's that. But aside from that one technique, and we don't even really know if that's like, you ever see Record of Ragnarok, the fight between Shiva and Raiden, where Raiden has his like ultimate technique, which is the Yatagarasu? It's just a really powerful like palm thrust. Like that's all it is, and it's so fast and so strong, it like breaks the sound barrier. It's like its name was Yatagarasu, boom, and it like obliterates all of sound around him. So is that what Sengoku is doing with the impact wave? He's just like, you know, moving his hand really fast, and it just creates the shockwave? Or is it like magic Daibutsu golden Buddha powers, where it's just like whoo, and then the shockwave comes after? So there you go. That is the only technique we've really seen him doing with that, other than just being a really big heavy giant and trying to like punch Luffy or stomping around. Also, you know, being a golden, I'm sure, gives him a level of endurance. Now, gold is not the most durable of metals. It's relatively soft, actually, and it can melt. It's not tungsten, you know what I mean? Yeah, Sengoku, come back to me when you can turn into a giant tungsten Buddha, and then we'll talk. But yeah, gold, not the most powerful metal in the world, but this is like the Buddha, so maybe it has like magical protections or something like that. All right, I'll be honest with you. I don't know that much about Buddhism, but that's luckily why I have this book that I bought from Dollar Tree many years ago, The Pocket Guide to the Afterlife. There's a little Grim Reaper hanging out right there. Okay, let's see what we got here. Buddhism! All right, this is a map of the Buddhist afterlife. This is a completely 100% accurate map of the Buddha afterlife. This one turns you into a dog. This one sends you to hell. This one, I guess if you eat hamburgers, you end up as a dog. That's not too bad. I'm okay with that. Let's see. Nirvana. You made it. You are finally free of that darn cycle of birth and rebirth. You want for nothing, and therefore everything is yours. And for a special bonus, enlightened beings, or Buddhas, get to experience a little heaven on earth. Nirvana is not only the end of rebirth after you die, but the end of samsara while you are alive. Nirvana is basically a mind at perfect clarity and lucidity, free of attachment and is requisite suffering. So game over, you're free. Yay! All right. So I'm going to assume, like, some of the tenets of Buddhism are like like in order to become like an enlightened one, things like, I don't know, being the fleet admiral for the Marines, you know, executing a guy, you know, all about like violence and things like that, subservient to an oppressive world government that's okay with slavery and all of that stuff. I don't know if those are the qualities of a Buddha, which makes it ironic that Sengoku can turn into a Buddha. I think that might be what Oda's going with here. At least he used to be Fleet Admiral. He's not anymore. His actual title is like General Inspector right now. But he still has the Devil Fruit. He can still go in the form. There's nothing, you know, different about that. But yeah, I think that's the idea, that like, oh yes, this is the symbol of like the corruption of the Marines. You know, he's the fleet admiral and stuff. He's not the most corrupt Marine, but you know, and then he transforms into a giant golden statue that represents a being of pure enlightenment. Yeah, no, I don't think that works. So, I don't know, what else can the Buddha do? Like turning into a giant golden statue. I don't know, like, all right, we could do light-based abilities, right? Like, I'm sure Sengoku could fire laser beams out of his eyes. I mean, can't the Buddha do that? I'm pretty sure the Buddha was able to do that, right? No, no, laser beams out of his mouth. Like, that's how it works, right? So, like, I don't know, radiant energy, like almighty damage from, like, Persona 5, you know, or radiant powers from, like, D&D. Yeah, we could just go with that. I mean, if we're going along with the idea that he could just, you know, imbue light into things, maybe he didn't use it so much at Marineford because if he shot out all the light, maybe that would blind all of his men. So maybe he could do light-based abilities like that. I don't think it's light-based in the same way that Kizaru can, like, turn into light and, like, zip around, but something equivalent to that. There's a lot of Devil Fruit abilities, especially when we get into mythical zones, that kind of fall into categories of other Devil Fruits. So you could have Kizaru being the Pika Pika no Mi, the Logia, the element of light, and then you could have Sengoku as a mythical light kind of idea, right? Like a holy light sort of thing, right? So like laser beams, blinding your opponent, I don't know, the shock waves are cool, so we're dealing a lot with, like, light and sound-based techniques, vibration-based techniques. I think there was even a scene in the anime where the shock waves were even to be on par with Whitebeard's Gura Gura no Mi, right? So, like, Sengoku's vibrations and shock waves were on par with the Gura Gura no Mi, which focuses on that. Once again, I think that was an anime-only thing, but still, I could see it, right? I could see, like, one being a Paramecia, one being a mythical Zoan that has Paramecia-esque abilities clashing with one another there. Certainly not on the same level as the Gura Gura. Like, Whitebeard could literally punch the ground and cause, like, incredibly high magnitudes and, like, tsunamis in their wake. I don't think Sengoku would be able to do something like that, but more in, like, a localized area, he would be able to, like, contend with that sort of stuff. Oh, and, I mean, if we are going along with the angle of enlightenment, maybe not enlightenment like nirvana in the way of, like, actual Buddhism, but I believe it was also mentioned in one of the video games, because, like, we just know very little about Sengoku's Devil Fruit ability in the context of the story. He only uses it for, like, a few chapters in Marineford. We don't even get the name, by the way. Like, that was something Oda revealed in an SBS later. I think retroactively they went back into the anime, and there was a Marine in the anime that did say, like, he has the power of the human fruit model Buddha. You know, that's in the anime, but in the manga that wasn't there. It was revealed later that it's like, oh yeah, he ate the human fruit model Buddha. But in the video game, Burning Blood, that he shows up in, I think it's also, like, in an entry there in the video game that says on top of being able to turn into a giant and, you know, have the golden statue and the shockwave power, you also gain a, like, super advanced, like, intelligence. Like, your brain also gets, like, enlightened or something, so you can think better. You get a boost to your intelligence and wisdom stats, I guess, as a Buddha. I would assume more wisdom stats at that point, right? So, yeah, I don't know. There was really nothing that indicated that, you know, when Sengoku went into that form, like, he was thinking better. It's like, I am now super intelligent. I'm like Brainiac or something like that. There wasn't really anything there. But I could see it. I could see that being one of the side effects of the ability, because you're talking about, like, a statue of, like, a being that has achieved enlightenment, right? So you could throw all that together in there, and it sort of, like, makes sense, I suppose. We really need to see Sengoku again is what needs to happen. We need to see him show back up in the story. He fought against Jack. Him and Suru and Fujitora were on the same ship that was escorting Doflamingo, and then Jack showed up, and we didn't really get to see that fight. All we really got to see afterwards is that Jack got his shit wrecked, which I don't even know if Sengoku fought. Like, I think it might have actually been mentioned that he didn't even really need to fight. I mean, like, Fujitora alone could have kicked the shit out of Jack. Suru alone could have done that. And Sengoku alone could have done that, too. So, really, I think maybe Fujitora was like, hey, I'm the one that's, like, the acting admiral. I'll take care of this. And just, like, boom, wipes out Jack's fleet really quick. And then he, you know, retreats back to Zo. Okay, so, like, I don't even know if Sengoku really did anything in that fight, but we didn't see it, even if he did. So yeah, let me think here in the story right now. Well, Garp has been captured by the Blackbeard pirates, and he's being held on Hachinosu right now. And we did see Suru and Sengoku in the cafeteria kind of talking about stuff in the world, with, like, the Cross Guild and everything issuing the bounties for Marines. And then Hina shows up, and Sengoku's like, hey, Hina, where's Garp at? I got some new rice crackers I want him to try. And be like, oh, he ran off to Hachinosu. And Sengoku's like, what? That idiot? So, I mean, like, Sword is definitely not going to go after Garp like Kobe wanted to, but at the same time, it's like, no, you know, Garp risked his life in order to get us out of Hachinosu. We shouldn't just go right back there. You know, we're the future of the generations of, like, the Marines and stuff like that. That's not what Garp would have wanted. But when it comes to, like, Sengoku and Suru, to give them something to do in this story, because yes, Sengoku is currently, his rank isn't really like an official rank. Like, they basically keep him on the payroll because he knows too much, and the government was kind of like, yeah, you're not allowed to just, you were the fleet admiral. You have information. You know what, like, the will of D is and things like that. We cannot let you just retire to the South Blue, okay? You could stay here on the payroll of the Marines. You can kind of just do whatever you want, but you're still here. You know what I mean? You don't really have an official job, but you still got to do things. You're the general inspector, so get out there and generally inspect things, right? And then Suru, vice admiral, great tactician, the great staff officer, was essentially Sengoku's right hand when he was the fleet admiral, okay? She was like a vice admiral, not an admiral, but she had like a lot of seniority over everybody else. So now that Sakazuki is the fleet admiral, and I don't think Suru is really Sakazuki's right hand anymore, the same way for Sengoku. They're still around, but they don't really have, their positions are kind of like in a place where they don't really have as much to do. Let's say that. So I think them going off to Hachinosu, them being the ones to try to rescue Garp. We see Suru in action. We see Sengoku going back into his Buddha and just wrecking all of Pirate Island, like punching Avalo Pizarro right in his head. Like Garp already cracked the mountain. Sengoku finishes the job and just obliterates the mountain. You know, the mountain that Rocks worked so hard to carve. You know, that would be crazy, right? That would be pretty cool if, like, that's what happened. They show up to rescue Garp, and let's say they do succeed, and then, you know, they end up in the final battle, and then maybe one of them dies. Maybe Sengoku. I could see Sengoku dying. I could see Sengoku dying by the end of this story, totally. Yeah, that's a thing that I could totally see happening, and then the Buddha fruit gets reincarnated somewhere else, I guess, maybe. I could see Garp dying, too. I kind of don't want Suru to die. I kind of want Suru to make it out alive. I kind of want her to be the one, because she was the most level-headed out of all of them, so I feel like her being the one that survives makes the most sense. But yeah, that's Sengoku. Anybody that knows more about Buddhism than me, which is pretty much anybody, let me know. Let me know exactly about, like, the parallels to this. I do remember, this is literally the little I know about Buddhism comes from a video I made about Bleach years ago, because I was making a video talking about the cycle of samsara, like the 6 realms. There's the human realm, and the Ashura realm, the Deva realm, the hungry ghost realm, the hell realm, and the animal realm, the beast realm, right? That's the 6 of them, right? And then Nirvana is a separate thing from the cycle. And I was going through all the different realms in Bleach, because there is a human world in Bleach, and I think the Deva realm I said was the Soul Society, and then the hungry ghost realm is Hueco Mundo, and then I think I said like the Quincy dimension was like the Asura realm, and the beast realm is mentioned to be where Komamura was from, and then there is a hell in Bleach, which is actually being like the focus of the manga right now. You know, we haven't gotten a chapter in a while about that, but it is a thing that exists, right? And so I remember doing research on that, and I remember also there was a line in Bleach from Lilia that did say at one point that, like, oh even the Buddha can only stay his hands like 3 times, and then after the 3rd time he raises a hand to like attack or something like that. So once again, I'm just learning about this from the perspective of a manga. Not the greatest place to learn everything about an actual religion, but there you go. So let me know about this. You know, it's like, well, maybe it actually does make sense that he can turn into a Daibutsu given his personality, or it actually is completely contradictory to something. Let me know. But yeah, pretty sure he's an awakened guy. All right, what's next? Who are we talking about next? Oh, the bugs. Ooh, my novel entomology heart is singing. Yes, we're going to be talking about the bug Zoans next time. So tune in for that. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to one and all. This will be Tekking, signing out. Later, everyone. Still mad I couldn't find my Buddha. I'm going to find my Buddha, like, tomorrow. I'm going to wake up, and the Buddha's going to be, like, right next to my bed the entire time. I'm like, oh, it was right there. I was like, all right. Later, everybody.